Hey guys, Eric at ProTexRemodeling.com, Grand Prairie, Texas. So we're here day 2 in Arlington. This job here, so as you can see, this is our ProTex 7000 series with upgraded solar glass, all the bells and whistles. This right here is a tempered rain glass window that's inside a bathtub. So this window actually is, it's a good window. It's not a cheap window. It's a $650 window, but it is what it is. But it's a window that blocks the heat. It has safety glass, and it's going to last forever. And a lot of these guys are running around selling cheap, best price, lowest price nonsense. And I'm going to show you what happens to your house when you get the cheap guy, lowest price, right? This customer here just had Hardy done in their house, and I did not do it. But I'm going to show you some of the things that are done right and some of the things that are done wrong. So here's one example of the way it's done wrong. They overlap the trim boards onto the Hardy. That is a no-no. James Hardy says that you put your trim boards on first, then your siding, and you leave a 1/8 inch minimum gap here and a 1/8 inch minimum gap here, and you put step flashing behind it, and then you caulk it, and that's correct installation. This is incorrect installation. You get driving rain coming in like this, it's going to get behind there. What's on the back side of this Hardy board right here? Nothing. It's concrete. And guess what concrete's made out of? Sand and water. Just like this right here. Look, people say, oh, Hardy doesn't absorb moisture. Well, there's no paint right there. That was butt up right against the window. These guys don't prime their ends when they're butting up against an aluminum window that has condensation. And what happens is that Hardy rots from the back side because it does absorb moisture. It's not waterproof, and it's definitely not waterproof when it's installed incorrectly. So as you'll see over here on these windows, when we pulled the window, we had to put new bottoms on. Now we put Smart Side on here. It's a 50-year product, and when it's painted, it's all going to match. The reason we do that, it's not going to rot. Once that's done, it's done. So here we go. Back to this side of the house. Look what they did. Now here, they kind of did it right. They put a corner on first. They put the siding on second. But they made these tight. And they put a very little caulk bead on there, and the caulking already is compromised. So water is getting in here because they didn't put a big enough gap, number one. And number two, they didn't put a quality sealant in there that's not going to do this and dry and crack. There's where a nail got shot into the Hardy. The other reason I hate this stuff is because every time you try to nail it, it breaks because it's brittle concrete. And you should see what happens when hail hits it. It falls off the wall and ends up on the ground. But that's supposed to be fixed. These are supposed to be covered with sealant. You can't just leave them like that. Hardy will not warranty this product when it starts to rot off this house because it was installed incorrectly. Up here where the arch comes together, you can see they just pieced it together. Sorry, I'm blinded by the sun. You can see that they just pieced it together. It's half falling apart. There's gaps everywhere. On the top of this one here, they put a seam right over the top of a window where it doesn't belong. We're having Hardy 101. This one here, they seamed it. Again, they use cheap caulk. On this wall, if you look up the wall, all the seams are compromised. This is a new Hardy job, by the way. All these seams are compromised with the caulking because they use cheap caulking, number one. They didn't put step flashing behind it, number two. And they didn't leave a big enough gap for the caulking to seat into. 1/8 to 3/16 gap is what it's supposed to be. So when this rots off this lady's house, Hardy's going to say, sorry for you, we don't cover it. Over here, because they're being cheap and didn't want to buy any extra boards, what do? They put a seam right there. So instead of having a solid board with no seam, they seamed it. And they did the same thing on that side. These boards come in 16-foot lengths, so there's no excuse for doing that. But when you go price shopping and you go cheap, then this is what you get. So on this one, they didn't do that, which is good. But again, you can see up here the caulking. Now they left a big gap. It doesn't look like they even caulked that one at all. So the caulking is better, but still compromised. They probably used $2.50 a tube gap caulk on this job, I would imagine. That's what most of them use.